The same way that this feeling of if I don't do this now, I'll never be able to do it. Welcome back to the Americans in Paris channel. My name is Molly Sevrier, and today we are going to be talking about how to go to university in France as a foreigner. And before I forget, as usual, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and like this video. It's super helpful for us as we try to grow and reach more people who want to move to France one day. Now that that is out of the way, we are into today's topic. So I wanted to preface this by saying when I finished my undergraduate degree, I was not one of these people who was like, wow, I can't wait to go get my master's. Wow, I can't wait to go get my PhD. I was done. I didn't hate school. I actually consider myself someone who enjoyed school. I like to learn. I'm a lifetime learner. Love reading, love writing. I just did not enjoy getting tested on things. Didn't enjoy being forced to take classes on subjects that I wasn't at all interested in. What I'm trying to say is when I got my diploma and I walked off the graduation stage, I thought I would never go back to school. Fast forward to 2017 and I am at the admissions office at Nanterre University right outside of Paris waiting to apply for my master's degree. So in order to explain how I got there, I need to go back a little bit and talk about why I wanted to go to university in France in the first place. The top reason, I guess I should say the top two reasons because they truly are neck and neck. Number one, I wanted to stay in France, and in order to do that, I needed a legitimate visa, and the student visa is the easiest to obtain. Two, the cost of university in France is a fraction of what I would have paid in the United States to get my master's degree. In the same way that this feeling of if I don't do this now, I'll never be able to do it, influenced my decision of even moving to France in the first place, that was also somewhat my thinking when I decided that I was going to go back to school to get my master's in France. I thought to myself, school is so inexpensive here. In 20, 30 years, if I don't do this, I will look back at 2017 Molly and be like, what were you thinking? University is so cheap, go get your master's. A few other reasons why I wanted to go to university in France. First, I wanted to integrate much more fully into French culture and French society, and I wanted to go to a French public university so that I would be with other French students, or at least other French-speaking students, unlike my little au pair English-speaking bubble that you've heard me reference at least 20 times on this channel. I was ready to actually become French in a way. At the time, I was also very much ready to move on from being an au pair or a live-in nanny. I had been doing it for 2.5 years at this point, and while I loved the children I was taking care of, I loved the family I was living with, I knew at that point, how old was I in 2017? At this point, I was 26 years old. I wasn't, your fresh-faced 18, 19-year-old au pair anymore. I was never that. I was an au pair at age 22. But you get the point. I was just ready to do something more. But I also was not ready to go back to the United States. So the fact that I could get a student visa, I could learn French, I could integrate into French culture more, I could get my master's degree for a fraction of what I would pay in the United States. All of these things together created this perfect storm of me deciding to stay in France to go back to school to get my master's degree. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that when I decided to get my master's degree, I realized that I needed a certificate that proved that I had at least B2 level French in order to even be accepted into my program. So before I could actually go to university as a foreigner, I had to get this certificate because as a foreigner, I had to prove that I could speak French to a certain level so that I could keep up with the lectures, so that I could keep up with my coursework. So essentially I wouldn't be left behind just because I'm not a native French speaker. One of the most important things to consider when you're preparing your application or your dossier to apply to a French university as a foreigner, you need to prove that you have at least B2 level of French. I have heard there are some programs that will accept you if you're at B1, but I truly think in order to be comfortable with everything that I just mentioned, so the lectures and the coursework, B2 is the bare minimum. I honestly probably might even push that up to C1 because university level classes are somewhat difficult when it comes to spoken French, so you just need to have a pretty strong grasp of the language. So you guys all know this if you've been following along. I went to Nanterre. I love Nanterre. I ended up going to Nanterre for my master's degree. I owe my life to Nanterre. We've gone over this. So initially, when I decided that I wanted to get my master's, I first thought, oh, I'll study French literature. I knew I wanted to become a writer professionally, and my undergraduate degree is in fashion merchandising, so I knew my master's should be something with literature, something with writing, something with reading. And because I was in France, I figured French literature would be a great fit. I went and talked to an advisor at Nanterre when I was getting ready to submit my application, and I'm so glad that I did, because she told me basically everything I just said to you all, that even though I needed a B2 level to be considered for this program, she didn't believe that my French level was strong enough to study French literature. She was honest, and she was probably right, and I'm so glad I went to see her, because I didn't even realize that Nanterre had this bilingual English studies program, and there are 3 different aspects of the program. You can do translation, literature, civilization. That's to become like a teacher. And I ended up loving this program so much. Anyone who is watching the English Studies Master's degree program at Nanterre, if you are into reading and writing, I encourage you to do this program. Funnily enough, the first year was much more English heavy in terms of the lectures and everything. I felt like the majority of my lectures were done in English. I was also very lucky. Everyone, or not everyone, but the administration in the program knew that I was an English speaker, a native English speaker. So I was actually able to do all of my tests and hand in all of my papers and everything like that. Even my thesis, I was able to do all in English, which was a godsend, honestly, because even to this day, I am not a very strong writer in French. And then the second year, it was a 2-year master's program. So the second year, we were all kind of more focused in on our thesis at the time. And weirdly, I kind of thought this was weird, but it was actually the second year where the lectures kind of reverted back to French, which I always found to be sort of interesting. We were studying English texts, but we were discussing them in French. It was funny. So at the end of that 2-year program, I presented my thesis, which I ended up getting a mention très bien, which I was very proud of. I think I got a 17 out of 20 on my thesis, which for French standards, French grading standards, is excellent. Also, funnily enough, the girl who did not want to go back to school, when I finished presenting my thesis, the professors that I had presented to were like, so PhD, you thinking about going for it? And maybe one day, but not anytime soon. But that little comment did make me feel really good about my overall experience with my master's program. If you are interested in reading and writing, I definitely recommend that you look into Nanterre, their English studies program. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I think the professors were amazing. I met some great friends. It was a smaller program, which was really nice because I felt like we were able to get much more one-on-one time with all of our professors. There's a big focus on female authors the year that I was there, which was so cool. And I am so happy that I decided to go to university in France as a foreigner. And if I can do it, the girl who did not want to go back to school at all, you can do it too. So if you're thinking about going to a French university as a foreigner, I have only good things to say about it. Do it. You have my permission. I hope anyone who's been thinking about it found this video to be helpful, a little bit more insight of what it's actually like, what you actually need to go. I hope you found this helpful. As usual, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please, please, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We've got new videos coming out every single week. So thanks again, and as always, see you soon et à bientôt!